Criminal justice leaders are addressing a growing problem in Brown County. People reoffending soon after their court sets the bond.
Court officials have reported seeing people with 5, 6, even 7 pending cases all at once. The Criminal Justice Coordinating Board is hoping that recommendations approved today can stop this cycle. Brittany Schmidt joins us live with a first alert update about the final recommendations now headed to judges for consideration. Brittany.
Cammy, though the Criminal Justice Coordinating Board set their eyes on a tool used by court officials to help them set bond. It's called a Public Safety Assessment, or PSA. It's supposed to help the court commissioners and judges evaluate a person's likelihood to reoffend and whether they are likely to show up to future court hearings. When it comes to the PSA tool, the person is giving a numerical ranking from 1 to 4. So in simple terms, the higher the number, the higher the bond suggestion. The board is making 4 revisions to the PSA tool itself, where someone's numerical ranking on the PSA scale would automatically increase if you meet certain criteria. The recommendation agreed upon today makes those charged with a major felony crime like murder, armed robbery, or sexual assault an automatic 4 on the scale. Now again, the tool doesn't tell the court what bond should be or make a bond recommendation. It simply gives them a score to help with their evaluation.
The most important thing to me is that those people who are utilizing it, meaning the court commissioners, when they first see the PSA scoring and they're listening to the arguments, is they understand what the PSA does capture, does not capture, and that it's merely a tool. It is not in any way to replace their own discretion in determining what they think is an appropriate bond to be set.
These recommendations will be forwarded to Brown County judges and court commissioners for discussion and implementation. But keep in mind, regardless of the score on the PSA, the judicial official uses their own discretion to set bond. Bill, Cammy.